Today on Asians Changing the World, we have Miky Lee, who if you remember during the 2020 Oscars when Parasite won Best Picture and that female producer just gave a short speech and then this woman started coming up on the stage and then they turned off all of the lights and shut off the microphone, and then of all people, Tom Hanks was shown really championing them to let her speak.
I really like to thank Director Bong. Thank you for being new, and I like everything about him. His smile, his crazy hair.
That was Miky Lee. And Miky Lee is the person mostly responsible for the Korean wave, also known as Hallyu. And the reason why almost 60% of Americans have watched Korean TV shows or movies, like Squid Games, which specifically we have Miky Lee to thank. Born in 1958 in Nashville, Tennessee as Mi-kyung Lee or Lee Mi-kyung in Korean, Miky Lee is the eldest daughter of Lee Byung-chul, who is the founder of Samsung. And Lee Byung-chul also started a commodity foods company called Cheiljedang, also known as CJ Group. And at the age of 3 years old, Miky Lee moved with her family from Tennessee to Seoul, South Korea when her father was called by the company to run the CJ Group. You see, the wealthiest families in South Korea are known as chaebols. And these chaebols own and run the largest, most powerful companies in all of South Korea. I mean, each of these families own and run a conglomerate company that owns multiple of the largest brands in South Korea, and topping the list of the wealthiest families is the Lee family from Samsung. I mean, when I say these families own everything, Miky Lee's aunt, for instance, owns Shinsegae, which is basically like the Neiman Marcus of South Korea and is like the most expensive, fanciest department store there is. I mean, for instance, CJ Group alone owns the Bibigo brand that partnered and sponsored the Lakers, as you can see here with LeBron James pointing it out. Now, fast forward to 1990 when their grandfather passes away and the CJ Group is run by their father and breaks off from Samsung. Now, even though CJ Group started out and is mainly a food company, Miky and her brother Jae-yeon decided that they were going to move to the US and learn the ins and outs of the entertainment industry. You see, Lee Byung-chul had this saying that he used to say all the time that essentially became Miky's guiding principle in life and in work. And that saying was no culture, no country. Most likely because he lived through the Korean War, where South Korean traditions, culture, and history were literally attempted to be erased from existence. Lee Byung-chul strongly believed that growing a nation meant highlighting its traditions, cultures, and history. So around 1994, when Steven Spielberg, David Geffen, and Jeffrey Katzenberg got together to form what is now known as DreamWorks Studio, Samsung was approached to invest and declined. Enter Miky Lee and her brother Jae-yeon, who collectively invested $300 million and became DreamWorks' second largest shareholder. But with this investment came the stipulation that these three powerhouses in the entertainment industry would teach Miky Lee everything that she needed to know about the industry, which was perfect timing for Miky because South Korea had just recently become a democratic country, which allowed for a new era in film. And one of the things that Miky quickly picked up on was the fact that South Korea had a big problem in the film industry, mostly because of the movie theaters, partially because it was really expensive to show movies, but also the lack of theaters. And now as the vice chair of the CJ Group and chairwoman of CJ E&M, their entertainment leg, the CJ Group now owns 4,187 screens in over 189 countries, including the United States. Half of South Korea's top-grossing films come from CJ. The CJ Group owns 16 networks in Korea, and they were the ones to ink a multi-year production and distribution deal with Netflix, which is why I said earlier that Miky is the one to thank for Squid Games. Oh, but that's not it. Just in 2019 alone, CJ Group was responsible for 990 single releases, and they own Mnet, which is basically like the MTV of South Korea and awards one of the most prestigious K-pop awards. And the CJ Group has produced over 300 musicals around the world, including on Broadway. For instance, Kinky Boots was a CJ production. They created KCON in the USA, which is the Korean convention. Obviously, they own a big share of the animation coming out of South Korea. They're even into esports and gaming and operate the top PUBG league. So say what you will about chaebols and people who come from wealthy families, Korea wouldn't have had the glow up it is having today without Miky Lee.